A lot of the last few weeks have really been about plaster, internal finishes. There was an enormous amount of first fix wiring and plumbing and MVHR that seemed to go on for months and months. And then we need to cover everything up. So the main thing that you can see as you look around is there is a ceiling. We have a plastered ceiling. That was built on a metal suspended ceiling system that we sort of tacked into the roof and then leveled up and then boarded over, and we've skimmed with a very standard gypsum plaster. So that's allowed us to do the roof, to get these lovely finishes throughout the house, which has kind of really unified the spaces and reduced the kind of visual noise, because first of all, you had the metal folded sort of support of the concrete roof. Then you had pipes everywhere and cables, and it was a real mess for a while, but now it's sort of tidying itself up, getting itself together, which is very exciting. And then the walls we're using a very different system. In order to get air tightness on the walls, we're doing a 2-layer cement render effectively. So we've put the first base coat on, as you can see here, which has then got the scratch in it. And then this is the top coat going on it. And the reason we've gone for that is that it's got a nice texture to it. It's really good for the air tightness. 2 layers of wet renders a really good airtight layer. And actually we know that because we had our air tightness test and we got to a passive house level. So that's worked well. And then in terms of the top finish, I sometimes find that very flat struck gypsum can be a bit dead. It's a bit sort of flat and dead. And what I really like is a slight rub, and almost like the maker's mark, slightly left in the surface. So this is unpainted, obviously, and this is just sand, like a really good quality plastering sand, rendering sand, with actually, in this case, white cement in it. So we've been doing some experiments with different kinds of cement. So you can get a white cement or a normal grey cement. So we were looking at the idea of using the white cement, and then we could just seal these walls and then wait to paint them. And it was a sort of an idea about, if you like, postponing expenditure until later on. Not just expenditure, but decision making, that if we left it like this, we could then think about colours over a longer period of time. But actually, we've made the decision that no, we're gonna get it all on and get it painted, whited out realistically in the short term, just to get moving on. Another reason that we went for this sort of scrubbed sponge finish on the wall is I wanted to differentiate the floor, the ceiling and the walls with slightly different textures. You can imagine if this was all a struck sort of gypsum plaster, the ceiling and the walls would become one, even if you differentiate with paint a little bit. Whereas now we can differentiate through texture. So the floor is obviously this continuous monolithic thing that runs through the whole building. Now the ceiling does the same, and then the walls will have their own kind of unified feel. So it's about kind of reducing the visual palette, but identifying the different elements. But actually we've done a bit of samples just around the corner where we've painted it, and you'll see how it sort of dies back a little bit, flattens out a little bit with the paint, but it's still got a bit of life to it. And here you can see the difference where this is just the grey cement wall. This has actually been quite roughly plastered because all of it is going to be tiled, so the finish isn't important. And this was a little test panel here, and you can see that we've just slapped some paint on. I mean, it's not the colour we'll use, it's actually 2 different types of paint we just had lying around. But you see that even when the paint goes on, you still get a sense of texture through the colour, which I think is really nice, makes it feel a bit more kind of alive, a bit more sort of visually interesting. What's been very exciting about the plaster going on the walls is it pulls the building together. You start to see the shapes and sort of spaces that you've been trying to create with much more clarity. And even though this is clearly not finished, this is the scratch coat on which the final renders will go, you can now start to see the kind of curves that we were playing with the design. Both the curve here, which is a brilliant moment. I love it. I think this is my favourite place to stand in the whole building. It almost feels like you're looking through a fisheye lens, and it's kind of bending away like this, which I really like. And here, where the wall carries on and then curves around to create a shelf. There will be a light. There's a light ready to go up into here. This will be a lovely chunk of wood, and it just makes a great place to put a couple of objects. And it's that thing about thinking ahead, how you can use the built form of the building to create furniture, to create places to display, to create visual interest. And I think yeah, I think this is going to work really well when it's finished. I think what's been a real revelation as well is that once you've got the plastered ceiling in, you start to get a much better sense of the quality of light that the space is going to have. I mean, even with these raw concrete walls, which do suck the light, you can start to get a sense of how the roof light's going to punch light deep into this space here, and the light sort of bounces around off the plastered walls a little bit better. Now you can see here that this is the pink of a standard gypsum skim. The reason we've done that is because effectively this is a piece of furniture. It's a timber stud. Actually, I think in the medium term, I might well end up with a timber finish or some kind of additional finish on this, but this is, as much as anything, it's sort of a holding pattern, if you like. Get that on, we can paint it, and then we can move in and make decisions slower. And I think increasingly, as we get towards the finishing line, there are more and more of those decisions that are about, look, this is fine, we can live with this for a while we really decide how we want to take it forward. And I think that's part of that's to do with the fact that I'm still trying to do this and keep up the day job of 25 projects in the drawing board with the team, and time is, it's always tight when it's your own job. It's always sort of slightly last on the list.